Hi there, welcome to Fame Engineering, how to align your digital PR, SEO, and GEO for brand growth. My name's Andrew Holland, and I'm going to be sharing this extra long and in-depth presentation that's going to help you to really understand what's going on in the world of search and AI and how you can deal with it. And now this is a very detailed presentation. It's merged several presentations into one, plus added some more to it. So I'll be going through this with you and hopefully you'll really enjoy it. So, normally, what I do in these circumstances is do a quick room check. And I always say to people, how many of you use ChatGPT, Perplexity, or AI overviews or something else, and now AI search in Google search to make a decision, to choose a brand, to help you get work done? And normally, almost 100% of everybody in the room puts their hands up. And that tells you how big this is. And Google's recent I/O presentation has made it quite clear that they are merging AI into traditional search, and that's what's coming. So this is the biggest change in the search interface in years. This is like Uber altering how taxis worked, and also Deliveroo and Just Eat changing the way we order food. It's that big. So, and I'll be honest with you, this is a talk about how to optimize for that future. And I say that future, I think it's pretty much happening now. And that's the other thing you've got to consider. The future is already happening. We're already here. It's just that we're moving through it at a rapid pace. So, first of all, you might not know who I am. My name is Andrew Holland. I'm the director of SEO at JBH, and we're a digital PR and SEO agency based in Manchester in the UK. I'm the author of a book called The Value of SEO. I don't even know if you can still get hold of that. I haven't checked. It was on Amazon. And I have a really unusual background, and this is going to make sense to a degree about why I'm uniquely positioned to help you navigate this. So I first learned SEO as a police detective. I was a police officer for 20 years before I got into professional marketing. And one of the things I did was I recruited informants, and we had our own search engine, and I helped to disrupt organized crime and criminal networks through that search engine. So basically, my job, I can't go in any more details than that, but my use and understanding of networks has developed over the years, and it's incredible to see what a criminal network was like and what marketing science and marketing networks like, and that's going to make more and more sense throughout this presentation. Okay, so the traffic era has trained us to confuse content accumulation with strategic process. And traffic became a target, not a measure. And basically, what we did is what SEOs always do. We kind of ruin the internet. And I'm not, don't take that personally when I say that. But what went on is traffic in the early days of the internet was very useful because it helped you measure your performance of your website. And then we turned traffic into a target because for various reasons, because it was something useful, something people liked, and people, accumulated associated traffic with growth and with improvements and brand growth and revenue. But when you generally look at most websites, the vast majority of the traffic or the important revenue comes through a tiny amount of pages. And the absolute economic advantage of that is not as big as people always made out. But it doesn't matter. That era has finished. Traffic as a target is gone. Traffic is not something that you're going to focus on getting because Google is going to give you less and less of it. Now, what we're seeing is a change in interface. The old interface, you typed a query, you get a ranked list, and the human, the user, was expected to choose a page or a business from those pages. So the new interface is different. You tell AI your problem, AI searches for you, and AI recommends solutions. Users are no longer asking for a list of matching phrases, they are asking for a judgment. And that's different. And that makes commercial search, I can't say the word commercial for some reason today. Commercial search is now about being recommended by AI. That's where all the money is, that's where all the revenue potential is. So we're not looking at rankings, even though there is an index and it's still going to be there. Google say that, but I think it will disappear in time. We're not talking about pages getting higher on those rankings, and we're not talking about traffic. We're talking about optimizing for AI recommendation. And there's a thing, what's going on the internet now is a lot of people are obsessed with the word citations. Now, it means certainly different things to different people. I think some people do think a brand mention or a brand recommendation is a citation, but largely it's those footnotes, those helpful links people are talking about. Now, the problem is those citations are just a visible artifact of a hidden inference engine. Just because that citation has been used to structure the answer doesn't mean that that answer came because of those citations. Then that's something you have to see. Those citations are very useful, but Google and other AI tools, ChatGPT, they have parametric training knowledge. They use live RAG. They have inference chains and grounding. And basically, there's a lot going on in the hood, and we don't know what's going on in the hood. So you have to be careful about chasing citations. And citations themselves have very little economic value. It's all about the answer and if your brand is there, not if your content is cited. Now, there is a problem with this. You cannot optimize for a recipe you cannot see. And that's a key thing. You can't optimize for something you cannot see. And that's what a lot of people are talking about. You can't see the prompts going in from the users. You can't see what brands are being recommended. And that is a problem. So you can't optimize against something that you can't see. And that's what we had with keywords. We had keyword data. We don't with AI search. So the solution is to stop optimizing for the interface and start optimizing for the network. The interface was Google's screen and keywords. The internet, the substrate, is the information network below. For years, Google was the screen and keywords of the unit. Today, you must optimize for the substrate, the places where your business can be encountered, understood, corroborated, and connected with the problems that it solves. So a better way to think about this is the web is not a list. It never has been. Google crawled the web. The web is a network. And the clue is actually in the name, internet, interconnected network. So I'm going to bring in some big guns now. I'm going to bring in a gentleman called Professor Albert Laszlo Barabasi. He's a professor of network science and the creator of the theory of scale-free networks. And scale-free networks is the study of all complex networks. And he's done some fascinating work that has led to important discoveries in all kinds of fields. But one of the things he did was actually understand the internet, and he went and mapped it. And his team did this in 1998. And I've got a very short video to play for you. Hopefully it'll work, which will show you what the internet was like in 1998. And it's from his book, Network Science. So here we go. And yeah, that's the internet. That's how it looked in 1998. Now we're going to come back to this and describe it more because there's a lot of interesting things going on in this video that we need to talk about and this image. Okay, so what Albert Laszlo Barabasi did was made a lot of studies, and he did a lot of principles that he found out. And one of the things was networks grow. And they do. Scale-free networks are growing, and if you think about the internet, AI content is accelerating that growth, and that is a problem, And we're forcing algorithms like LinkedIn and other algorithms have got to deal with that growth because we only have so much attention, and every platform only has so much bandwidth and users. And the second thing that he discovered is those connections on the internet are not distributed evenly, and that's the key thing that you need to understand. People are not connected on an even basis. Everyone has a different level of connection on the internet. Now, this image is important because it's from that study, and you'll notice on the screen that you can see various hubs. Now, they look like galaxies, don't they? And it's kind of weird that that is the case. But what that is that's a brand or a popular website. So all these little galaxies here are popular websites, popular brands. And that's because this is hyperlinked, by the way. So the popular brands gain more links. And if you think from a natural language processing world, this was hyperlinks, but now brands can be connected through context and text alone. And that's an interesting development. That makes us all more interconnected because natural language processing works on words, not hyperlinks. But the same principles apply because the internet is a complicated network, and how it can be traversed now is different. And natural language processing AI traverses the internet in a different way than just Google's index. So what Professor Barabasi discovered is visibility attracts more visibility. Brands that get mentioned more. Brands that get selected more. And this is known as the rich get richer effect. And I'm sure you see it in society. Money helps make money and so on, and popularity leads to more popularity. You get seen more. And it's an effect that he noticed within the complex networks of all kinds of networks, but particularly in the internet. And he called this preferential attachment. The connected become more connected. And that's an important thing for you to get your heads around and understand. Okay, so in network science, which is what we're talking about here, visible things become more visible because they are already visible. You have an initial connection phase, an attraction phase, and then over time, preferential attachment kicks in, and you end up with the rich get richer hub. So, you're coming onto this webinar today to understand how you can win in this era of AI search, and that's the important thing. How do you increase the likelihood that AI will recommend you? And that's what our goal is. So, you must aim to trigger preferential attachment. That's what you want to gain. Now, preferential attachment in Silicon Valley terms is often called escape velocity. It's that bit where you start to attract more users than you're paying to acquire. It's more, you get things for free. You win more business without having to pay for it. It's how big brands grow. And it's why bigger brands actually gain more market share through less spend in advertising. They get better ROI in their advertising because they're already big. And that's why smaller brands don't. But that's the goal, to aim to reach that point where preferential attachment kicks in and you start getting things naturally and that flywheel effect happens. Or in other words, you must aim for fame. That's what you're looking for. And in this case, aim for fame in the machine and digital world, but obviously you must aim for fame in the human world as well, the human experience. You must increase your visibility online because without that increase in visibility, you cannot increase your levels of fame. And you must be encountered and must aim to be encountered by AI. So where AI goes looking, whether that be in its parametric training data and its rounds, when it goes out, we don't know when the next training rounds are. We don't have that information. Or whether it uses RAG, and goes off and does search and grounding and scoops up the internet, you must be in the places where AI will encounter you to have a higher degree of being recommended. You see, a brand achieves preferential attachment when new visibility starts arriving because of existing visibility, not just because you manually keep creating it. That's the key there. Just because you are creating visibility, you're doing your PR, you're doing your content or whatever, you want that visibility to arrive not because of that. It's not because of your work, it starts to build up around it. But how do you actually achieve this? And that's the key, especially when budgets are limited. And we all know what's going on in the world: economic crisis, cost of living crisis, global issues, price rising. So, how are we doing? We're all expected to do more with less. So, you build fame digitally. And those two nodes there are really important. That initial connection to that attraction phase, you have to push your brand outwards. You have to have a strategy for getting it out there and increase that meaningful visibility. And that's key. So, stage one, you have an invisible brand. A brand is not mentioned unless it publishes about itself. So, that's the first thing you got to do. You got to start talking about yourself and publishing information about yourself. Now, this isn't that topical noise or topical authority. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about publishing about you, about the problem you solve, and how you solve it better than other people, proof you solved it. It's essentially taking your fitness signals, and we'll talk about that shortly, and pushing them out. You've got to start talking about yourself first. And then the next stage is a push brand. The brand gets visibility when the brand or agency partners drive others to mention them through PR, marketing, and advertising. So you've got to then push your brand further. You talk about yourself, you've got to do activity that gets other people talking about you, and that's key. And then the final stage is the repeated brand. The brand starts earning mentions in a link that aren't earned or created by the brand or agency. This is where people start talking about your products and your services and you as a business without you having to ask for it. And when that happens, you will achieve success. Now, the thing is, where this all happens is we're asking AI to judge and choose a brand or a product and their ability to successfully solve our problem in the future. We're not asking it to give us a list of links. We're asking it to make a judgment, and that's key. So, why does this work? We ask AI to judge and choose brands, products to successfully solve our problem. Sorry, repeated slide there. So I'm going to give you some examples here. So if I go to Google and we say, what are the best hotels to stay at in Negril, Jamaica? It'll come back. The best hotels in Negril depend completely on whether you want to stay on world famous soft sands of the 7 Mile Beach or perch atop the dramatic volcanic cliffs of the West End. And there it lists best all-inclusive resorts, 7 Mile Beach, and it comes up with couples swept away as the first one. Now, what we discovered, or what Barabasi discovered, is performance is bounded because it occurs in the past. We know who won the Premier League this year. We know who won it last year. We know who the heavyweight champions of the world are, but we don't know who will win the Premier League next year, or we don't know who will be the heavyweight champion in the future. We don't know this information because performance is bounded, and that's key. And we're asking large language models to judge the successful performance of a product or a brand in the future, and it can't do that. So performance is bounded, but success is not, and that's key. So, like I say, LMs are being asked to judge something that can't be measured, to judge the success. It's unbounded. So the only thing they can do to understand this is go to the network, just in the same way that humans go to networks and humans go to ask your friends for opinions. There'll be somebody on Facebook who's saying, does anyone know a good plumber? Does anyone know a good decorator? You go to the network. And humans, we go to the internet ourselves. That's how we access the network before. LMs have different access portals to the internet. They have their own training data. They also have that personal data and personal intelligence, and they also have live search that they can go and conduct. And like human intelligence, machines look at the network to mathematically evaluate and recommend the best options. Now, we call this in economic terms for humans, it's called satisficing. What is the good enough? What's the best solution? Large language models are looking at this from a mathematical perspective and evaluate what is the best option for that user's prompt. And as Barabasi stated, there is no way to truly define what is best. That's the problem with this. You're asking it to do something it can't do. Humans can't do that. We just have to decide and make that decision. And what he said is performance drives success, but when performance can't be measured, networks drive success. The network is what carries the collective response to your performance. So, based on mine, you've obviously performed as a brand, an agency. It's obviously been out there. Your product's been used, your service has been used, and it's been described or talked about. And the network will carry that collective response in all different locations. And it's key this users are no longer asking for a list of matching phrases. They're asking for a judgment. And we used to say, you used to go to search engine and type in SEO agency Manchester and browse pages, one result at a time, to get a viewpoint of the business, the website, and start digging around. Now it's find me the best SEO agencies in Manchester. The machine must now infer, reduce uncertainty, and produce the most plausible recommendation. The technical term for this, by the way, is you supply mutual information to reduce entropy. That's the technical term for what's going on here. Another good way to think about this is search engines index the web, AI systems interpret it. That's key. So, what is the secret to all of this? Okay, it's called fitness. And that's what Barabasi discovered, and that's what he called it, or fitness signals. These are the attributes that allow a node or brand to outperform others in the network. And fitness is a really unique concept, and it's observed in all areas of life. And fitness signals is a term from science. It's a term that describes exactly that, how good somebody is at something, that it's a unique qualities of an individual or a brand to allow it to win. It's why certain people get more jobs. It's why certain people get more dates. It's why certain businesses win. And it's all about those characteristics. And that's what Barabasi said. It's fitness signals. Now, success in AI search is not random. It's shaped by two variables, and that is fame times fitness. You can't achieve fame without visibility. So you have to increase your visibility to the extent that it makes you famous to both humans and AI, and fitness, how good your product is. And that will increase the probability of being chosen. So fitness is the attributes that allow you to a node to outperform others in the network. because performance drives success. Okay, that is true, and that's the reality of it. But success can't be measured, bear in mind. So you have to go to the network. And fame as network advantage. Brands that get mentioned more. And that's what you're looking at. Fame times fitness will equal the probability of being chosen. And this means that SEO or GEO, whatever you want to call it, is no longer about optimizing pages. It is all about shaping distributed understanding of your brand's services and products. Okay, so how do you do this? And that's the key. How are you going to achieve this? Okay, so we use a 3-layer system. And layer 1 is on-page positioning. You're going to have to rewrite your core commercial pages for constraint-proof positioning, define your audience, your problem, your mechanism, proof, and trade-offs explicitly. Layer 2, own media enforcement. Create a content ecosystem that repeats your performance attributes across case studies, guides, social, video, and downloadable assets, and more as well. And then the third layer is earned media and validation. Expand mention density across independent publications, directories, review platforms, and industry coverage. At this point, digital PR becomes a structural and important input around your brand. So we're going to break each one down and go through them with examples. So layer 1 is this on-page positioning element. Okay. Now, years ago, the product was we used to dumbed it down to on-page, off-page. You'd go get your links, and if you were smart, you'd get brand mentions as well as links, depending on how those links were. A lot of them were exact anchor match text. That's what we did as an industry. And your on-page was your header tags. You put a lot of information on there. And the way we did it in the search industry is we saw what was ranking, and we made it better than that and took all the same elements and tried to improve it, and we skyscrapered things, and we made really long pages full of topical waffle and topical noise because that's what the number 1 ranking pages did, and we wanted to replicate the same signals of that, and it became trying to match that page as best as possible and get more links. That's what we did. Now it's different. Now it's all about your fitness signals, your performance attributes, and we're going to cover that now. Performance attributes, or your fitness signals, is basically your positioning. It's decision shaping performance attributes. These are the things you want to become well known for. Now, there's lots of performance attributes that you have, and this is not, it's a massive list. Every brand is different. You might be good for 24-hour access. You might be a gym that's got 24-hour access. That's something that you have a high performance. You might be, your location's good. You might have a high price or a low price. You might be premium or cheap. You might be lower maintenance products. You might be a product better for enterprise teams, better for beginners, easier access, easier to clean, more convenient. There's so many different performance attributes that you can have depending on your products and services. The mix is unique. This is the thing that you win with. This is your unique abilities or your product's innate characteristics that allow it to win compared to others. Now, the thing is, if your product or service pages don't articulate your fitness, the web can't repeat it. So you have to get it right here. You have to literally lead the example. And this is good old-fashioned copywriting, by the way. So this is high-end copywriting, but you're not looking to analyze your header structure and page title and add topical content, which is matching certain signals. And the reason why it used to work, by the way, the reason why it used to add things in the old days, you have something called TF-IDF, term frequency inverse document frequency, which basically meant that if the amount of number of times a word was written on a page related to the document size, and that evolved into BERT and sentence level BERT and then embeddings and so on. But the model was if you had enough topical words on there relative to your keyword you wanted to talk about, your product or service page would rank. That was the goal behind it. And that's different from what generative engine optimization or AI rewards. It's looking for the fitness signals, and you have to define them so it can be repeated, and that's your goal. So I'll give you some examples here. I went off to AI mode and did it. Who are the best digital PR agencies for driving brand mentions and links in the UK? And the best digital PR agency in the UK for driving high authority backlinks and high impact brand mentions includes Rider 7, JBH, Digital After Impression, and Click Intelligence. Pardon me. There's our business mentioned. It's there. Who are the best? Now, I didn't do this in I didn't actually do this in incognito, so it might have personal training data in there. I don't know, but the point is that that's the truth. That's what I'm asking for it to make a judgment, and it brought out those brands. Now, the chances of somebody going there and looking at Rise at 7 or JBH or Digital Off and Show One's website is probably quite high because of that result. Then obviously it's got that marketing signals plus 5, which means 5 other sources were used to show this answer. But it doesn't mean that those 5 sources necessarily are the things that made that answer show. It's just useful for expanding on it. And obviously, then it went off to look and it got a list underneath it, the top UK digital PR agencies. So let's have a look at what it's talking about. It says the choice of agency depends largely on your sector, budget, and campaign goals. And it says here, Rise at 7, best for consumer brands and viral creativity. The agency is a market leader for creative, cultural driven campaigns. They excel at fast paced newsjacking and trend led PR that drives substantial traffic alongside top tier links for major consumer brands. And then it talks about us, JBH, best for data driven and commercial pages, for commercial page links. Based in Manchester and London, JBH is highly regarded for original research, freedom of information requests, and data led campaigns. They focus specifically on routing equity directly to commercial, product, and service pages rather than home pages. That is our brand's fitness. Whether we like that definition or not, by the way, is irrelevant. Whether we think we're better than that, that's what it's absorbing from all the mentions of our brand, our website, and everything else, and what it knows about us. That's the information here. And Digital Art, it says it specializes in 100% earned non-paid placements in tier 1 media. This is what the network says about us, what we say, and what the network has repeated, and what others have said about us. And also the opinion based on lots of different things that we probably can't see and know. But those are the fitness signals that it believes are related to our brand and why we're different than others. So we do this with hotels, and we've got what are the best hotels in London. London's top hotels offer a mix of historic grandeur, riverside views, and modern luxury. For iconic opulence, the Savoy and Claridge's, and then it goes for striking skyline views, the Shangri-La, the Shard. Okay, so that's really interesting how it's done that. It's got different things, it's picked out different aspects. And if I go to the Shangri-La Hotel, they've got a little statement on their website that says, overlooking the River Thames, enjoy panoramic skyline views. That is a performance attribute. That is, and there are other performance attributes, such as it's near Borough Market, St. Paul's Cathedral, within a short walk, private dining venues and meeting rooms on level 34 also offer breathtaking views and London's most famous sites. So if you were there to say, do you have I'm looking for a hotel that's got a meeting room with fantastic views in London, that might reference this website because it's got that amongst its performance attributes. That's what's been written about it as the brand itself. Now, that might be repeated elsewhere as well. I don't know. But that's an example of high-end copy and performance attributes there. So how do you optimize your fitness signals? So essentially, you've got various areas. You have audience fit. Who do you serve? You need to define your ideal client with specificity. I can't even say the word. You need to define your ideal client. Okay, that's the point. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have one ideal client. It means you might be able to define an audience, a geography, a group of people, a sporting group. The list is endless. But whoever your ideal client is, if you name them or isolate them on the page, it's highly likely that that is more going to increase the probability of showing up or being recommended when somebody of that group. And when there's personal training data, personal information, and personal intelligence about that, it's going to help you, or whether someone names that in a prompt. Real problem. What problem do they face? Name it concretely. And yeah, this is good old-fashioned copywriting. But what is the problem that you have? You need to talk about that problem and the problem your products or services solve. Mechanism. How does your approach work? Explain the method, not just the outcome. You need to explain why you're different. Why are you different? What do you do differently? What's different about your hotel, your air fryer, your accountancy business, your digital PR agency, your SEO agency? And proof. What evidence supports your claim? Do you have case studies, data, results? Do you have that you can add into the page as well? And trade-offs are interesting ones. What do you choose not to do? You see, encoding trade-offs builds differentiation, and that's the different thing. What are you saying you don't do, and why don't you do it? That's an interesting one to look at as well. Okay, so that is the things, the elements of a good, well-written page. Okay, so let's move on. Now, if you're finding this hard to do, we built a tool called Optigen. And if your brand wants to develop its copy even further, our tool Optigen works on improving a brand's page, product page, services page, homepage, whatever that is, for SEO and GEO. It's a unique tool that I built specifically for this, and we offer it for our clients, and that's how we do our work. So if you're wondering how you can improve that, this is my little pitch about how our tool works in terms of we can help you do that and help you optimize because we're well ahead of this curve. So I'm not going to go over too much of that, but it's a fantastic tool. I developed it myself personally, and it really is something special, and it will help you to optimize your brand's products or services pages really quickly and efficiently. Okay, now we did masses of studies here at JBH, and I analyzed so many different things on the internet to discover this. Broad prompts, when people are doing broad prompts, which is basically like, SEO agency, the old broad keyword, they reward fame, but constrained prompts often tend to reward fitness. And that might be, instead of just SEO agency, I'm looking for an SEO agency that specializes in e-commerce sites that are Shopify and the beauty industry. That's a highly constrained prompt. And that tends to reward fitness, a brand which is better positioned for that unique problem, which is important if you're working in SEO, GEO, or anything like that, or if you're an SME, because a smaller brand can still win if the prompt is constrained and the fitness signals are stronger. And of course, in the B2B sector, we're all very much using AI, so our prompts tend to be highly constrained. We want to get what we want. And Google is pushing that with Ask Google, this new thing that they recently announced. The idea being they want to encourage people to get exactly what they want from the internet. And that's going to come in. More conversational search is going to happen, and people are going to get used to asking for exactly what they want. So broader prompts will not default. Well, sorry, broader prompts will default to the famous brands like always. But if you're really highly positioned and well positioned, you might win business anyway. So we move on. Once you've got your on-page elements sorted, and bear in mind, like I say, that's nothing to do with those old-fashioned techniques for copy. It's all to do with copywriting. It's all to do with understanding the difference. It's different type of writing than SEO kind of copywriting was. This is optimizing for recommendation. The next thing you do is signal amplification. Layer 2, your own media. Okay, so you've got your fitness signals identified on a page. You then have to create a content ecosystem that repeats them across case studies, guides, social video, and downloadable assets. Now, this is the great thing. Because this allows content creation to be done, but we're no longer chasing keywords. We're pushing content and evidence that we want to show ourselves. This is pure promotional stuff and educational stuff about why we do what we do, the way we do it. And it's a really exciting for content marketers now, because this is your world, content marketers. This is what you guys do best. I'm a content marketer myself. I was an SEO content marketer and copywriter. This is why I get this a little bit more than many other people. So it's own media reinforcement. Okay. Now, the reason why this works is co-occurrence. That is the operating system. Brands get understood through repeated proximity to attributes, context, problems, and proof. And as I said, the technical word of this is supplying mutual information. That's the natural language term. Supplying mutual information to reduce entropy, to reduce the uncertainty that a model has in recommending your brand or your product or your service in a buying situation. Repetition creates confidence. The more fitness signals appear consistently across relevant sources, the easier it is for AI to recommend your brand. And it's no different than how humans work, by the way. It's how we encounter things. We build what's known as mental availability. Here, I believe this is building what I would call AI availability, the likelihood that AI will recommend your business in that buying situation. Now, how you do it is going to be different to every business. You can produce case studies. You can write blog content that repeats your performance attributes, topical articles, PDFs, white papers. You can use those as signal carriers. Buyer guides, reinforce positioning through decision support content. Social media, amplify the same core positioning messages. And video, reinforce positioning through visual formats. The world's your oyster when it comes to content. It's a strategy around your content, and what you're going to use will be very different. But essentially, what you want to do is you want to repeat the things that you want to be known for, or other way, you want to sell yourself. You want to sell what you do. Okay. So here's some examples. So went to ChatGPT and I said, I'm looking for a great tapas restaurant in Manchester. Can you list me some ideas? And ChatGPT goes off and it looks at for 24 seconds and it says, here are the Manchester tapas places I'd shortlist. And it comes with Algato Negro King Street, a fantastic restaurant. And it comes out with probably the safest bet for great tapas pick in Manchester. It's on King Street, central Manchester, spread over 3 floors. So it's telling you it's a big place. Does modern Spanish tapas with enough polish for a date, client meal, or proper night out. Michelin also lists it as a buzzing 3-level tapas restaurant. Best for city centre, stylish setting, strong food, cocktails, and reliable quality. The brand's fitness signals on display yet again. Those performance attributes. And then it went and said, best wine and tapas option, Evuna in Deansgate, a long-running Spanish restaurant and winehouse on Deansgate. Their own site positions it as their first restaurant serving Spanish food and drink. And Visit Manchester describes it as a Spanish winehouse with tapas, mains, and Spanish drinks. Now, what happens is when you look at the source of information, you can see Instagram, the Instagram channel there, and you can see their page. It's literally just reinforcing all those same fitness signals to give people a look. And bear in mind, AI can see all this and understand images now and so on. This is again repeating everything, but it's telling you where it is, what it is, authentic Spanish recipes, restaurant recipes, and exclusive wines. That was repeated. That statement from the Instagram was repeated in that section on ChatGPT. Pardon me, this is a long webinar, folks. Okay, so the way you need to do this is social content reinforces brand positioning across your own channels. Now, that's an outdoor living company, and what they did, what we found when we looked at that, is their own content was helping to be surfaced for certain types of prompts. And you don't know what the prompt is, bear in mind, but that's a piece of content. It's a good piece of content that's selling and reinforcing the brand's positioning. And consistent messaging across social platforms amplifies signal density. Now, the one on the right is actually quite an interesting example because I was in Amsterdam for Spotlight SEMrush conference. And what happened was I was looking for viral food places to eat. And sure enough, it it surfaced that and it found them without me even, telling it what to, because I didn't know any viral food places. But that social media influencers post is something that absolutely helped it to be put out there and helped it to be recommended. There's no doubt about that. So what we're seeing is this broad ecosphere. You can put out your own content into the web. Now, here we have some clothing. How clothing can improve performance and recovery? If you're selling clothing, performance clothing, it makes sense to tell people why it works, how your performance clothing works. It makes sense to talk about your services, how your service talks, why your service has been built the way it is. You can talk about your problem because that will help artificial intelligence to understand and better select the answer for the user. You've got to sell yourself and talk about it. And now, own content will reinforce your brand's extractable positioning online. Now, this is because repetition increases reliability. Reliability increases recommendation confidence. Every owned asset should reinforce the same core positioning attributes. That doesn't mean you're not going to do your advertising on social media. You're not going to do other kind of things. You're not going to try and create positive feelings about your brand on social media. That's not this. This is that own thing about generative engine optimization. This is what I want us to focus on, is putting out content that sells what we do. So here we have one. What is the best, or what are the best outdoor kitchens that have modular design? Okay, so off it went and looked at modular design kitchens. And there it picked an article about Meet the Barbara Ember 800, a modular marvel. Now, those citations, if I go back on the right-hand screen, basically what they're doing is they're directional evidence about what's working to drive recommendations. It doesn't mean that that particular was just a thing, because it probably went off and looked somewhere else as well. But my point is this, is that's just a blog article written about a product, and that was brought in. So once you've done your own content and you've got that bang on, and that's a whole strategy, I could do webinars about every single element of this. You head off into your earned media and validation. Layer 3, expand mention density across independent publications, directories, review platforms, industry coverage, and yeah, of course, influencers, social media, and so on. You must aim to increase your mention density. That's the key here. Now, we know this works because former Google engineer Jun Wu perhaps wrote the best book on SEO, not that you would know from that sexy title, called The Beauty of Mathematics and Computer Science in 2019. And he gave huge information around how authority is judged by search engine created. It's one of the best books ever written on search and search engines. And anybody who is in search should read that, because it's literally the Bible of SEO. Now, what he said, there are 4 stages to the processes Google uses to evaluate authority. Stage 1, it performs a syntactic analysis on every page's main text. This is in 2019. This was written, by the way, guys. So think how advanced it is now. This will find all phrases on a topic. They then find descriptions of information sources. This will provide what he calls mention information. Stage two, they find a correlation between topic phrases and information sources. Who is the source of information? Stage three, they cluster topic phrases. These are phrases that have the same meaning. And stage four, they cluster the pages of a website according to a subdomain and subdirectory, because not all are authoritative. You could have the finance section of the Sun isn't the same authority for a food website and so on. So it's all about being the actual subdomain and how authoritative that is, not just the domain, because a lot of publishers have lots of subdomains. Now, you then garnish with a sprinkle of weighting mentions and iterative algorithm. You have authority built on mathematical models. And that's what he said in 2019. But basically, all roads lead to mention information. And you think with natural language processing, AI, and stuff, that makes sense because mention information is powerful. It's hard to cheat. It's hard to generate, fake mentions of your brand. I know people are trying to do it and so on these days, but that's what it is. You need a mention. You need information. You need an authoritative subdomain or category or domain. Basically, brand mentions are the new backlinks. That's the best way to think about brand mentions. That's that way, that reinforcement and to build up that mention density, that mutual information around your brand is and get other people saying positive things about you. LLMs are constantly being trained on data from the best websites in the world, the most authoritative websites. They will suck in all that training data. They've been blocked, haven't they, by some publishers, but the next training round, they'll suck up even more. And that's the point of it. If you want to be known for something, you have to be constantly building this mention density in publications. That's why PR kind of is an always on thing. You've got to have digital PR now. It's an essential part of your brand's growth, even if it's a little bit goes a long way. And you need to supply AI models with information both through RAG and training rounds. That's the key here. You don't know when the next training round is. You've also got RAG, and also it's providing information constantly about your brand and your business and around your expertise, the things you want to be known about or known for. Now, go back to my tapas restaurant when that 24 seconds was going on. You could see what it was doing. It was browsing current tapas restaurant recommendations in Manchester. But the articles it was looking at the Sun newspaper. It was looking at TripAdvisor, Confidentials, which is another thing, the Good Food Guide, Manchester's Finest, I Love Manchester, the Michelin Guide, the Times. It was sucking up a broad amount of editorial content to help shape the narrative, to help better understand and give the user a better answer. Of course, it makes sense to be on top tapas in Manchester list posts. It does make sense. And obviously here, it went off and looked at first impressions, poured to Didsbury, Stowe, Bridge Street. It looked off at different articles to judge whether something was good or not. Pardon me. So let's have a look at this as an example. What are the best moisturizers for men? The best moisturizers for men depend on skin type. Top choice include L'Oreal, Hydra, Energetic, Talk Sport, Bulldog, Skermatine, and so on. Then it's got different things about publications. But look at what's the sites it's going to: The Independent, Gentleman Magazine, Expert Reviews. It's sucking in this information from the wider web. And when we break it down, look to that, we've got Independent, Gentleman Magazine, L'Oreal Paris, Clinique, number 7, Amazon UK, Nivea. It's a wide range of sources that it's looking. So directionally, this tells you that you want to be in those publications, and being listed on Amazon might help your business, and obviously your own content is going to help as well. So that's a pretty much good example of that owned and earned aspect working at the same time together. Now, the growth loop used to be on page and off page. That's what we did. What this is now is your fitness and the visibility. You have to create meaningful encounters. It's your brand's performance attributes and how visible they are across the internet. So you can't think of your brand. Yes, you have your website, but it's your brand's got to exist everywhere. You've got to build that fame. You've got to build that co-occurrence related to what you want to do, what you want to be famous for. Those mentions have got to increase. So you've got to increase your positioning, and you've got to get yourself in the local workshops, directories, podcasts, guests, and digital PR, and so on. You've got to make sure you are well positioned and that positioning is distributed widely. Now, the thing is, and this is what Barabasi came out, it says fitness without visibility doesn't travel. You can be the best product and you can still be the best kept secret. And visibility without fitness doesn't last. So just because you're spending a fortune on marketing doesn't mean if you're not very good, you're not going to last. That's the truth of it. We see good products. We do good products who never get discovered, and we see bad products that go out of fashion because they're not that good. Now, links, people will talk to me, well, what about links? Well, the best thing about way to think about links is they're no longer just authority mechanisms. They are contextual and counterpoints. You know, your podcasters, SaaS directory, Chamber of Commerce, the guest webinar node. I'm doing this webinar now. I'm reinforcing my brand positioning. The goal is simple. Push your fitness signals into the network through PR, reviews, directories, partnerships, influencers, social media influencers, listicles, and so on. The goal is meaningful visibility where buyers and machine actively gather evidence. That's the key. Now, traditional SEO, digital PR, brand marketing, they are not at war. They need to merge, and somebody needs to own this. And that's why GEO is such a good phrase to own this, what this difference is and how it works. But ideally, you've got to map your brand's co-occurrence, the context and sentiment your brand is being mentioned in, and you've got to understand and measure whether the network is describing you correctly. So the new job of PR, AI SEO, or GEO, whatever the heck you want to call it, is to spread the right co-occurrences around your brand's fitness signals across the wider web. You want to shape that distributed understanding. Or in other words, the real job is making your business or your client's business famous for the exact problem it solves. And you need to stop obsessing over traffic for its own sake because it's gone, it's going. You need to stop reporting on flat vanity dashboard like AI visibility through citation numbers and things like that. You need to isolate the fitness of the business and you need to increase your meaningful visibility in the network because the goal is to make it effortless for humans and machines to encounter you and for humans and machines to recommend you. That is the goal. Now, at JBH, we have been on this for a long time. We've got Optigen that helps us to optimize pages for generative engine optimization and SEO. And now we have the Fame engine. I'm very proud of the Fame engine because we built it from scratch. No tool exists like this in the marketplace right now. And Fame is a mnemonic. It stands for fitness, yeah, obviously, amplification, memories, and echoes. And that's our system, our operating system for how we help brands to grow with generative engine optimization. And what the Fame Engine does is it has 20 years of media coverage within the database. It maps co-occurrences, context, and sentiment, and essentially measures whether the network described you correctly. And this is the media network, by the way. This is the stuff that the training data and the RAG is using, like you see in there, and that the various examples. And we're going to see whether or not your brand is being talked about in the right ways. Now, the Fame Engine doesn't just do that. It maps AI visibility, looks at links, has all kinds of nice little things in there. And one thing we can do in it, and we can go and look at a brand, and this is an example we tested Huel out. We just threw Huel as a brand in there. Not that we're not working with Huel as a client, but what we did is we looked at their publicity and went at it in granular detail. And we can see they had 598 articles, 222 media outlets, and 22 topical clusters because we're semantically analyzing the coverage. 39% was positive, 40% neutral, 21% negative. And we can see the most popular outlet, the runners up, the worst ones, the most critical, and so on. And we can analyze everything about every single media mention there is online, not links. This isn't just links, this is media mentions. So we're mapping it through natural language. Now, one thing we can do is we're going to put up the Fame database. And my Fame map, I love my Fame map. So what this does is it understands, this allows us to analyze every single article, every single mention, every single cluster to see how it's working, what kind of narrative it's driving, and how a brand has been mentioned. Because those collective narratives are important. And Huel here, by the way, obviously the top cluster there is diet replacement, food and eat. And then we've got comedy. Then we've got Stephen Bartlett because Stephen Bartlett was an investor or a brand ambassador. Then you've got supermarket, cheapest lunchtime. That was an interesting one when we looked at that because we was looking at saying, okay, well, there's a lot of narrative being driven about Huel being part of a cheap lunch, and that might not be exactly what the brand wants. It might work for sales activation, but this is the memory. Bear in mind, this is what consumers are reading. So you're not just building AI's memory, you're building the memory of your consumers, and that might not be that cheap lunch memory, might not be the one you want to build for AI and also for humans. So that allows us to have a look and analyze all this in incredible detail for any brand and also any topic. We can literally see how individuals become famous. We can understand topics, how they're talked about online, how the media are talking about any subject area you can imagine. And we can go really in depth. This is one we did for a client of ours, Tails. Whether you have a dog with sensitive stomach, a puppy, or an older dog, and you can see that this is actually a positive article. Here are the best dog foods around. You can tell that's a great article for them to be in because that's listing the client in a dog food article, which is exactly what they want. Now, obviously, when we're working, we have a link tracker, we have link measurement, so we understand links because links still are an important mechanism in the web. They're doorways, they act as authority mechanisms as well. So, and mentions and links matter as well. So, we have a whole system and we can track links inside the Fame engine. And we can also track AI visibility. So we're looking at prompts and analyzing those. And we do this. This is not a SaaS tool, folks. This is our agency tool to help us generate results for clients. And it allows us to achieve massive success for brands because we can see what's going on. We can see what prompts people are being found for. We can see how it's working. We can see whether or not you're present in that information. And obviously, then we can build up this. And the key thing is here is because we're putting the prompts in, and there's a whole process through Optigen, how Optigen creates branded prompts, creates buyer intent prompts. We feed them into this platform, and this platform, the Fame engine, can then track mentions over time because that's firing into the API. Yes, the prompts aren't known, aren't real prompts, but they are representative of potential prompts that a user could use that make sense. And the key elements are always going to be in that prompt. The constraint, the elements of goal, what somebody wants to achieve, what the problem they want to solve. Those will be in the prompt. They might be different ways, but those things tend to stay the same for different businesses, and it's all different for every business. But the prompts are broadly representative, and that allows us to track and see what's going on and see what other brands are being recommended, what's happening in there. And some of these prompts are going to be the logical ones you would go for as well. Think long tail keywords. That's the best way I can give you that analogy. So what it does, so you can see one of the best personalized dog food subscriptions. Is Tails any good? Tails is a good dog food company. Tails versus Butternut Box, which is better? These are all kind of things that the client would want to see. How can I find out if Tails is right for my dog? Is Tails worth the money? These are all kind of prompts. Now we've got loads of these prompts that we can map over time, and we can start to see whether or not you are showing up or whether or not any client is showing up for the right things. And that, folks, is the end of a very, very long webinar. You've been fantastic on this, nearly an hour. It's what we call fame engineering. Now, this is a broad overview. We've gone very broad, very, very big here. Every area in this could have its own webinar, and I could talk for hours on this subject. So if you're a brand and you wanted to learn more about how to position yourself online, or you were wanting to learn more about generative engine optimization or build a strategy or activate your PR, which you should definitely be doing, or you want to know, is your pages optimized enough? Could they be optimized better? Get in touch. I'm more than happy to discuss it with you and work with brands all the time. And for everyone out there, good luck with this. This is new, it's funky, it's different. It's going to require people to think differently. And you can go and find out all about the things I've said. Everything is here scientifically based. You can go and read Jun Wu. You can go and read Barabasi. All that stuff's out there. You can go and understand for free online how complex networks and preferential attachment works. You can understand all of it. But the fast track is through getting in touch with us, through getting in touch with me and JBH, and we can help you faster than our competitors. And we understand this niche better than anyone else. So thank you very much. You've been a fantastic audience, and please do get in touch and follow me on LinkedIn if you don't do already. Just search for Andrew Holland. You'll see me come up, and you've been fantastic. See you soon.